Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. YouTube, we are back here again doing another nerd report. And I would like to say that when the news hits you, the news hits. And this one has come back with a vengeance. So let's get started with it. Now, when you think that Verizon is dead, boy, they come back and let you know they still got some life in them. Maybe even ready to eat your brains, zombie style. But before I go into the story, I would like to also give my disclaimer. This might not be as friendly of commentary to Verizon as some other channels might be towards them. I'm a little more skeptical about Verizon when it comes to competition wise. That's just my commentary. But if you please hit like on the story and stay around for the story, you'll get what I'm talking about. So, and this is from Phone Arena. Verizon is finally a worthy 5G competitor to T-Mobile. Oh, so my previous video has Verizon conceded 5G to T-Mobile? Well, apparently somebody must have dug them up out of the grave to resurrect them to get them back into the game. So, in the first part of the header of this, it says it took 5 years, but real 5G competition between T-Mobile and Verizon has finally kicked off. So, do I think that it's been 5 years? No. I do not think that it's been 5 years. It's been somewhere about 2.5 years. T-Mobile had a very good head start because coming out of their merger, they had a lot more a wind to their back. They had a bigger sale where Verizon and AT&T didn't get their footing yet and was able to really flex their muscles like they normally do, because before 5G and then even in the 4G side, they had a lot more power. Let's say it like that. So the long and short of it, Verizon and AT&T benefited from a 4-carrier system. It was Verizon, then AT&T, then T-Mobile, then Sprint. Underneath for 4-carrier system, it was 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom. So now it's only 3. You really get a chance to really see the small little differences of each and every network. And when I drive around and I test the networks out. Now, have I seen standalone for Verizon in the Washington, D.C. area yet? I have not come across it yet, but I'm still testing for it. I would love to travel around and go and try to find these different places so I can see what the difference is. Now, sometimes being first does not always makes you the best, but Verizon is very cautious as a company. Now, granted, they're very boisterous as a company, but they're very cautious also. So where T-Mobile has kind of thrown caution to the wind and gone straight in, which I think that sometimes you get a lot of growing pains when you are trying to be first to market and claiming the first, quote unquote, first moniker. You might run into some issues. Like, I could honestly say that with T-Mobile finally switching over everybody to 5G NR and standalone, did the phone calls get better? Yes. Did the video calls get better? No. And I'm starting to see little hiccups all over the place in areas that I once had very good 5G coverage when it was in non-standalone. Now all of a sudden I'm hitting patches of hesitation and momentary stuttering in certain spots. Now, more testing needs to be done, but is that more along the lines of maybe my phones are becoming outdated, or has the network upgraded past where I'm currently sitting at, or has going to standalone actually hurt them, and maybe that might be the reason why Verizon hasn't rushed to going to standalone. But with your competition already at standalone, and AT&T's, you can't really call AT&T being competitive at this point in time. I wouldn't even say they are. They're still riding 4G coattails all the way into the ground. You know, they'll claim they have 4G and 5G, but really, if you really test their network, it's really a 4G core with 5G add-ons. Verizon probably will have a lot more 5G aspects among their network, but for the most part, I don't really see AT&T really doing much in the way of trying to improve their network for the foreseeable future. That's just from my testing that I've done and looking at their network in the rawest form. But I think one of the biggest reasons why Verizon is going to have to start stepping their game up, and I mentioned this in my previous video, was Apple coming out with their new line of phones and their watches supporting RedCap. And RedCap basically is, and just to sum it up, it allows for 5G to be utilized even on low-powered devices, IoT, watches, different things that don't really have a lot of power, but needs to benefit from connectivity. And being the fact that T-Mobile is currently the only one that has a full network 5G running, they benefit better with those devices running on their network than it would be a Verizon. And even in this article, I'm going to leave the link of this article in the description below. Basically, Verizon's PR team says, yes, we'll have 5G standalone, but, it will fall back to 4G also. So it's basically saying that, we still have our 4G network that can still support the watches as needed. Now, that's more of a Verizon cautionary aspect instead of moving forward directly to the new 5G, hot word. But Verizon kind of still has a foot still inside of the 4G grave, would you like to say, and it kind of makes it seem that they're not really ready for prime time yet, even though they might have a couple of cities that's online right now with standalone. I haven't come across one of those cities just yet, but I'm still going to be testing. I'm looking forward to trying to get out here and try to travel a little bit more. But one of the biggest problems that you can honestly start seeing is the more T-Mobile gets ahead of them, the more it makes it seem like Verizon and AT&T are not trying to compete as much. And that's one of the reasons why articles like this will start popping up. Even my commentary doesn't sound as, fruitful for them. But it does get to the place where you really want to find out, are Verizon really pushing their assets to be a very competitive company right now? I'm hoping that that's what they're working towards, but it's not looking that way. One of the biggest problems is with the merger in 2020. T-Mobile came out the break and had ample amount of spectrum to put towards 5G. Where Verizon, hands are tied, where they finally get a hold of their mid-band spectrum, which they spent a lot of money on, and very little of the 850, which is the low-band spectrum they're going to move all their 5G operations over towards. They don't have a whole lot of it compared to T-Mobile, which T-Mobile's doing like 20 megahertz in certain places, maybe even 30 in others, of low-band 5G, where Verizon is at best at 10 megahertz of 850. Now I could be wrong about the spectrum size, but I know it varies from state to state, or even a municipality to municipality. Also, but I'm looking forward to seeing what the prospects of this is going to end up being. AT&T is moving their customers over to their standalone network. Is being confirmed, so they can support the new Apple Watches also. But I wouldn't be holding my breath for that to happen. But let me know where you stand at with this. Do you think that T-Mobile got ahead of them and pretty much put them in the ground, or do you think that Verizon is resurrecting themselves and allowing and slow and steady is what wins the race? Which analogy do you think this works for? I think that, you know, T-Mobile getting ahead of them has a chance to really define what 5G is. And that's kind of what you're starting to see right now. Verizon is more reactionary in their deployment, not proactionary. And it makes them look like they're dead on their feet. But let me know what you think. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave your comments below. And I'm curious to see where your mindset is. Thank y'all for watching, and you have a very good one.